How's it going, people? Tactard Ted. It's Friday, the 10th day of June. How are you doing? We're here on the cusp of the weekend. Yes, the weekend is almost here, and we won't have to work. Or at least some of us won't. I probably will, one way or another. All right, folks, in case you missed it, 3 mercenaries were sentenced to death yesterday in the Donetsk People's Republic. Yes, the 3 mercenaries, 2 British, 1 Moroccan, were captured during the military operations in Ukraine, and they were put on trial because they've been there for quite some time before the war that everyone's familiar with started. They took part in the Ukrainian Civil War. Yes, the Ukrainian Civil War, where they were attacking the separatist regions in Donbass. And you can do whatever you want to do about saying what the motivations behind the people of Donbass were. You can call them Russian plants. You can call them all that happy shit. I don't really care. The fact is, they have a government up and running, and they have decided that these 3 individuals are war criminals, and they are mercenaries. Therefore, they are not subject to the protections of a prisoner of war under the Geneva Convention. And I'm hearing just tons and tons and tons of crying today. Yes, tons of crying. Let's play your silly games and let's take up your crying. These guys were Ukrainian soldiers. They all were Ukrainian soldiers. They're not mercenaries. They're Ukrainian soldiers. Why aren't the Ukrainians doing anything? Well, in case you missed it, we call a lot of these folks Nazis in Ukraine. Nazis. Do you know what goes along with being a Nazi? Xenophobia. Yes, they think that they are the knees bees, that they are the greatest ever, that the Ukrainians are Aryan and somehow superior to the Russians. They call them orcs, by the way. That's dehumanizing. Just in case you missed it, that's the sort of thing that Nazis do. In World War II, the Germans thought that they were better than Jewish folks and Slavs and everything else. They called them Untermensch, subhuman. That's kind of what goes along part and parcel with being a Nazi. So these guys are not Ukrainian, and there's no reason to try to save these guys when there are plenty of Ukrainian soldiers as POWs. Why bother with a couple of Brits who came to fight for your country and a Moroccan? Why bother with those folks? No. You have plenty of pure-blood Ukrainians that you have to save from the orcs. You know, this is World War II all over again. The Germans felt that the Russians were Slavic hordes from the east, Asiatic Slavs, all sorts of happiness that they used to say, and that they were Untermensch, they were subhuman. And somehow the Russians, the subhumans, won, because I can tell you how this works. You're not really all that, and the people that you say are not all that are probably better than you are. So anyhow, that's the one game I'm talking about. You just kind of missed the racial component in all this. You kind of missed that the Ukrainians think they're better than the Russians. That's why they made laws restricting Russian language. That's why they say, hey, you don't like it here, leave. Now, when we say that in the United States, we get called all sorts of terrible things when we say that about illegal aliens, people who came here illegally and did not follow our laws. They say that about people who've been living in Ukraine for generations. Just a little thought on that. The other big argument I hear is that these guys are Ukrainian citizens. These guys are Ukrainian citizens. Actually, they haven't received their Ukrainian citizenship yet, which should have been a stipulation for service. Now, I don't know how the UK does things, but I know that there was legal issues if you serve in the military of a foreign country, and it causes problems with your U.S. citizenship. Now, I don't know how the Brits do. I do know that Aiden Aslan, the most talkative, the guy who was what, Cossack Grundy or whatever he was on social media. I know he's been arrested on terrorism suspicion in the UK. And part of this goes that he supported the Kurds during the war in Syria. And, he felt that was, he's one of these adventurous freedom fighters. He's going to go free everybody. He's going to go to protect everyone. And after Syria, he decided he was going to go to Ukraine. And the weird thing is, if you listen to some of his stories, he talks about he thought about going to help the people in Donbass, but then he decided to go fight for the Ukrainians, which means he wasn't really emotionally invested in either side. It was just, hey, let's go have some fun and play army. Folks, total disclosure, I've seen causes that I was drawn to and felt that I should go help out, lend my skills, how meager they are, lend them to people to free the oppressed. And after thinking about it a while, I was like, that's probably not the smartest thing for me to do. Although I know the language that they speak, and I know a lot of basic things, you can get caught up in the wrong situation in a hurry. So, what's going to happen with these guys? Well, they've got 30 days to make an appeal. I'm sure all three will appeal. According to the way the laws are written, if the death sentence is commuted, they get automatically 25 to life. And if they don't get commuted and then their appeal does not go through and they do not get mercy or leniency, then they'll be shot by firing squad. That's just how the executions go. And I don't know if it's firing squad or whether they do it old school KGB style and give you one round at the back of the head while you're facing off into the distance, like the scene from Of Mice and Men. I'm not sure that's where all that is. I'm just not sure how the DPR does their executions, other than I know it's by shooting. That's what I say. So, does that shooting mean a firing squad, or does that mean you just get one round to the back of the head and you're done? I'm just not really sure. Sorry, I'm a little graphic there. So what are the options? Well, the options are the British government can put pressure on Zelensky to release Medvedchuk, which Medvedchuk was a opposition leader in the Ukrainian government who is under arrest. They could put pressure on him to trade Medvedchuk for these three hapless souls, or at least two of them. Or they can put pressure on Zelensky to release Russian prisoners to trade for these guys. But there are problems. Number one, if the Brits go to bat to get their two guys out, then they're admitting that they have been supporting sending people to fight against the Russians. That's going to be a political issue. That's going to be a bit of a problem. I don't understand how that's a bit of a problem when you're sending weapon systems out the yin-yang there. I don't understand how you think that's going to somehow enrage the Russians worse than it is, or going to make you look any more warmongering than you are. But that's one of the considerations right now, is that they would be afraid to appear to be more than just casual players in this situation. One of the other things that I keep hearing is that they don't want to deal with the DPR because that would give the DPR legitimacy. They can't legitimize these people because they're not internationally recognized. Well, what is international recognition? I mean, all this shit is really subjective. There are a couple of countries who do recognize the DPR. So when there's more than one, wouldn't that be international? I know we seem to play with words. What does international recognition mean? Is there any law that says that you have to be internationally recognized to execute people? Not the last I heard or saw. Not that I know. It's just one of those deals. Do you have to be internationally recognized? No. But what it is, once again, is the Brits do not want to be seen as giving legitimacy to this breakaway region of Ukraine. It kind of shoots themselves in the foot, so they think. So there's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs. I will tell you this much. They have taken Aiden Aslan. Once again, he was Cossack Grundy, or however he went over the internet. Prior to the Russian invasion, there was lots of shit talked. He posted a lot of shit posting about, Ukraine and how great he was and how great this was and how great that was. And there was a posting made as the war kicked off that he was going to go silent on social media so he could concentrate on removing Russians. He was gonna go to war and be a hero, and he was going to slay the Russian invader. And then, a couple months later, he's getting processed outside of the factory that he hid in Mariupol. He was part of the 36th Naval Infantry or Marine Brigade, however you want to say it. Naval Infantry is actually a little different, but it's the closest thing you can equivalent it to. The closest thing you can equal it to would be Marines. So, folks, one last little thought. I'm seeing all this nonsense in the media. The narrative's starting to change, and they're starting to get ready to throw Ukraine under the bus. Now, I don't believe that I've ever wavered since day one of who I said was going to win this conflict. There was no doubt of anybody who understands military operations, anybody who understands the region. There was no doubt who was going to come out on top. There's never been a doubt. It would be the equivalent of, say, we're going to get into a land war with Mexico, and Mexico is going to defeat the United States. That's honestly the equivalent of what you've allowed yourselves to believe. And why is Ukraine a shit show? Well, look at the people who are supporting it. Democrats. The Democrats caused the coup in 2014, along with several very, very wishy-washy so-called conservatives, John McCain being one of them. And I really can't help it that a lot of you people who think you're conservative and think you're different than Democrats really are just Democrats of a different color. You're simply Democrats who want to claim that you're not. That's the biggest problem. We now have one party. Whether you want to admit to it or not, we have one political party. And that was very apparent during the Trump administration. One political party. And their loyalty is not to the country, it's to the political elite, the people that secure their power. This is why high-up people don't go to jail. This is why Nancy Pelosi's husband, who hit another car while he was drunk as balls, is not going to jail. In fact, they dropped the charges on him. This is just how it goes with these folks. They're not going to answer. They're not going to pay. And if you think they're going to answer or pay, you're crazy. You're not thinking right. And these are the people who are helping run this shit show in Ukraine. I think it's wonderful. We've got the New York Times having intelligence guys. We have no idea what's going on in Ukraine. Well, then you're not very intelligent. You're not very good at doing your job. If you can't figure out what your allies are doing, how the hell are you figuring out what your adversaries are doing? That's the most amazing thing to me. Oh, the Russians are doing this. Hell, you can't even figure out what your allies are doing. You're having a hard time figuring out what your allies are doing, but you're going to tell me what's in Vladimir Putin's heart? You're going to be able to tell me what the Russian military is doing? Come on, guys, get fucking real. You people are the biggest joke on the face of the planet. And the second biggest joke are you people who fall for this shit time and time again. I'm starting to question some of the things I believe that are in line with what the government tells me. I'm starting to really wonder. I'm starting to rethink a little bit and look at some things that I've always accepted as just a matter of fact. Those things may not be matter of fact. I may just have fallen prey to bullshit that my government wants to feed me. Well, anyhow, folks, that's all I got time for today. I'll talk at you later. Bye.